Good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to NFT Live on the Web3 Network. We're going to take you around the industry and back in just around an hour. I'm sitting here with some awesome co-hosts, Biggie Poppins, Gifdead. I am Nifty Q. It was a nice little weekend we had in the NFT space. Some stuff is happening this week. I think Nifty Island is going to be on the tip of everybody's tongue. Some stuff is happening with Pudgy Penguins as well. So a lot to cover here, and we'll get right into it. Biggie Poppins, how was your weekend, sir? How are you doing today as well?
Good, man. It was good. Like, I got to go home to a different country. It always feels so weird. Like, most people are like, oh, I went home, visited my folks. I was like, yeah, I crossed a border and visited folks on another country, and then had the pleasure of hiking it back and going through that whole process. It's fun. It's always weird. It's like going through a portal.
It really is, man. So glad to see you made it on the round trip, brother. That's always, it's definitely good to see you back in your digs here. Gifdead, how are you doing, sir?
So good. Oh my gosh. Big Monday vibes.
Love to hear it, man.
Happy to be back. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, I'm interested in this new setup. I thought it was like a one-off Friday thing, but now we're just running.
This was my Friday setup, and since I already had it set up, I was like, you know what? Let me let it go a little bit longer, see how I feel about it. I don't know if it's gonna be my regular setup yet, but it's fun. It's nice to relax on the couch and be able to do this.
It looks comfy. It looks real comfy. Do you use you're not using your computer camera for this, right? Like, you're using a camera.
Well, I'm using the same camera I always use, which is DSLR. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
All right. So if you guys are watching over there on X, we see you. Also YouTube and Twitch. As you start to roll in, we just pressed live on this episode, Monday, January 15th, officially halfway ish through the month. A lot of crazy things have been happening here. It does feel like we're kind of ramping up into a nice little bull cycle. I know that there's been some pullbacks on Bitcoin, and that's been super volatile. Just don't trade on leverage. And I think you might be all right. That's not financial advice, by the way. All right, Nifty Castle, Christian Jensen, DP, Nox Darkness, Prodigy is here. That's right, I'm in chat today, snowed in. We're not going to talk about the Cowboys. This is my safe space.
Yeah,
this is my safe area.
There's nothing to say because everybody knew what was already going to happen, and it happened. So the Cowboys just do what the Cowboys do, and there's nothing. There would be something to talk about if they did something different.
Nice. All right. Okay, if you guys want to go full ESPN, I'm down to have it. I'll tell you why. This is now the almost 30th year since we've had a Super Bowl champ here in Dallas, or there in Dallas, I should say. So, no, we're not going to go there. We are going to talk more about the NFT space. Did you guys do anything here in crypto or NFTs over the weekend? Gif, I did see you traversed into the SEI world, the SEI universe.
That's pretty much all I have to talk about right now, is that over the last week or so, your unrelenting peer pressure has gotten to me. And I had sudden urges to break all the walls, and so I aped into some SEI NFTs.
Okay,
probably dumb, honestly. It's literally probably the same shit I've done on every chain, where I just buy a bunch of junk. But I'm having fun with it. There's a lot of projects over there popping off, and who knows where they go? Not financial advices. Dobs are my fave. like literally out of everything that I've bought, maybe the only two that I have real conviction on right now are Dobbs and Sayans.
I think you're right on that. Like, as far as
I bought a bunch of other junk.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly we've seen the cycle like rise and fall in SEI, right? Like, it happens on a lot of chains, but how quickly we've gone from 2 weeks ago being some of the first covering it when there was 4 NFT projects, and now you go and there's like 30, and half of them are copy pastas. It's an interesting little cycle. So,
yeah. I am. So I wanted to ask you one thing, because the one thing that still, I don't know, like, it's not that it keeps me awake, because I will most definitely make my way to SEI also. I do think the narrative, and I don't, there's a confluence of many factors, I think, that are playing into the same narrative. But I've been trying to wrap my head around, because every time I go into DeFi Llama, I see the same total value lock yet. I'm like, really? For all the chatter, for all the building, for all the things that are being done and said right now, it remains the same. That's bullish to me. It's just like, hesitation, trepidation, maybe on my part, like that I haven't, pulled the trigger like GIF has. But I want to ask you, Q, like what your thoughts on it are. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think a lot of sentiment is tied to token price a lot. I hate that it's that way, right? But the SEI token has done pretty well, definitely relative to even some of the larger macro tokens. Like the SEI token is doing extremely well. We do see like some of the stuff that I'm looking at is over on Flipside Crypto. 0x Hess does a great job of keeping up with this. You can see transactions have obviously like gone up here over the last month, and they've kind of stayed flat here in January. If I go back here though, and you go to say the amount of swaps, you can see activity on swaps is down. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a little bit of trepidation. There is a little bit of risk when it comes to being on these new chains, Biggie. That's nothing new. But I do think it's hitting on the right narrative of that paralyzed EVM. This NFT marketplace came out of nowhere, bro. Like, as far as like the activity that you see, so that's always, in my opinion, that's better than not having it, right?
I'm just wondering like what that catalyst is going to be, right? Like, you see those moments happen. Like, I mean, latest on Solana that really woke up the chain was the Jito airdrop, right? I'm wondering if with SEI it's going to be something like that, or if it's going to come out of the NFT narrative too. Like, or an NFT project, say, I know there's a couple of these projects that you've mentioned that are building also like products for that space. Mm-hmm. If they even hint at a freaking token or something, maybe like that's what it's going to be, or at least maybe people sleep on it and then get to see the aftermath, and they're like, all right, let's swarm SEI.
Well, that's the opportunity really, is being early now. You're probably beating a lot of those bigger catalysts that are going to happen in this next run, right? Yeah. So Voyagers is maybe the first DeFi NFT project that we were talking about on GM Web 3 that just popped up. And so, you're talking about, is it tokens, is it NFTs? Why not both, Biggie? Why not both? Why can't it be a DeFi NFT with a token?
Not a perfect world, GIF, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, but I just mean, like, because I think it's still early enough that a lot of those bigger catalysts haven't happened yet, and then because it's a relatively small ecosystem still, you still have those potentials for 10x, 100x's over there when the demand picks up.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's my thesis on it. That's why I decided, okay, fuck it, I'll roll 1,500 over here and pick up a bunch of early NFTs.
Yeah, look, I don't think anybody that's out here looking at a lot of these chains should be. I mean, look, I'm not going to say this, so I'll rephrase my statement. I don't think putting all of your eggs into one single basket is going to be the easiest way to chase this meta. Now, if you hit on it, congrats. If you ape into everything onto SWI or SEI or base, and that is the single one that pops off, you're going to be fucking set. But I do think just getting what Biggie Poppins has been talking about, what we've been doing within our group chat and in the network, is like trying to place our fingers into a lot of different areas and then see which one gets momentum and then double down then. So, look, base is another one that I think will do extremely well here in the long term that I'm keeping my eye on. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening, but Biggie, it's a tough one to answer your question. I almost even forgot what you were initially kind of talking about, but
like the catalyst, I'm trying to. I guess it's.
I think everyone's surprised. I'll just to add on to that, like everybody's surprised that this happened on SEI. Even the SEI ecosystem guys that have probably been around, they're probably like, holy shit, this big NFT boom, to the point where people are talking about Magic Eden implementing them. Now that could be Hopium posts as well, but
no, I think they definitely caught a wind, right? Like or a narrative, and they're doing an awesome job at capitalizing on it, and that's why I think they've captured the attention of the whole space. And that's why I'm also very surprised that for all the talk that I see on crypto Twitter and all the postulations and theses and threads that I'm looking at, like the TVL still hasn't caught on to the sentiment that you're seeing, right? And so, hey man, I'm just lucky. I guess maybe part of me is just a little bit cringing. Is like, God, get over there sooner rather than later, because you'll be hitting yourself,
yeah.
So
no, that's fair. So we started the episode here diving pretty quickly into SEI. I do want to provide some updates here later. The dashboard's pretty full, so I'll get to that here in just a moment. But before I do, let's hit them with the handy dandy disclaimer. Gifted, I can take it. If you're feeling like you're not up to speed, I know you were saying you want almost like a team attack on this disclaimer, not just be solo dolo.
How about I'll do it, but give me 30 seconds and then I'll do it.
Okay. All right. I'll do the dashboard here while we wait. So this is basically what I've got. Of course, we're going to be covering some other stuff that doesn't make it here on the dashboard, at least initially. Pudgy Penguins has some interesting tailwinds, you would call it. So they're obviously continuously going up here on the floor price side. So they've got some other things that I think are interesting if you are a Pudgy holder or a little Pudgy. Token has been thrown out there as well. Is there going to be a Pudgy Penguins token along with Azuki? Nakamigos had an interesting announcement. Nakamigos Cards. It is going to be a Nifty Island week. I think that's going to be what's being most talked about. Refik, Anadol. We have some Solana news with the Jupiter airdrop, and then we'll get into some other alt-chain discussions, Biggie. I did hop into Berachain. I was telling you on the
I saw that, man.
show.
I heard it in the channel. I'm happy for you, dude.
We'll see where it takes us, man. It was a pretty cool experience just being there and interacting with the testnet.
And I like how you broke it down, right? Like it's like, and it's one of those things that I'm dealing with a lot right now. Like so basically the way that I'm trying to remain disciplined with my remaining liquidity is to farm and to just be tinkering with all these different airdrops. And you can't pay attention to them all, but one of the key things that I notice that I hone in on, and I noticed you highlighted there, was who's backing them, right? Like who's in, who's got skin in the game, right? And Olaf Carson Wee is definitely somebody that you should follow and you should be following if you've been in the space for some time. And I would not fade that guy. So yeah, that was definitely one of those where I was like, yeah, I'll play. I'll check this thing out. See where it takes us. But yeah, I'm excited about it, especially like I don't know, you probably have to read the the particulars, right, of their whole staking system and proof of liquidity mechanism. I liked it, man. I really do.
Yeah, so we're going to hop into Berachain here later in the episode. Let's get to the disclaimer. I want to hit the comments really quick. Super Arsenal here with the penguin in the chat. So yes, we're going to hit on some public or Pudgy Penguins. Let's see. Nick Swerve is saying, "Oh, say, can you see?" I like that. Prodigy, Carrie Ross, GM to you, ma'am. We also have Tom's Plucius cryptocurrency. My biggest conviction is Project Kaizen founder Tom Bilyeu. This is the only project what I will not sell. I believe something big is coming soon. ... I love that comment there. Hey, to each their own. And DP is saying he tried to warn me about the Cowboys yesterday. Is it a plan?
Is that a plan?
Oh.
Is it Stan asking the real question too? Is a Say phone in development? We have to wait and say. All right, Gifdead, hit him with the disclaimer. What's going on, brother?
Oh yeah, I'm loving all these comments over here. And look, we have to say it. If you're not new here, you already know where this is going. But if you are new here, then pay attention, because there's one law that you must always stick to in this wild, wild Web3 world, and that is do not speculate. Okay? Do not speculate. Okay? You can read that. That's do not speculate. Okay? It's important. And of course, how does that translate? It means do your own research. This is not financial advice. We're not financial advisors.
What a great Mark Cuban shout out. I love that, man. Great job. That's why we have you do it there, Gifted. You're just a professional at it. You just have it down. Timothy Masserone saying Carson who? Are we talking Berachain?
Carlson. There's an L there, so it's a different Carson.
Yes,
Different
Olaf
Carson.
has an interesting story, man. Like, we're not going to go into it on the episode, but this is basically Coinbase's first employee, and he got paid in Bitcoin. This was when Bitcoin was like $5. So like he was answering all the calls. People were like, I can't get my Bitcoin out of Coinbase. What can I do? They were flooded with
You fucking rug.
Yeah, loser. I want to go come and find you. And then he ended up, I mean, obviously he took that stake I think he got paid in Bitcoin as well as having Coinbase stock. And you can obviously think
stories like that, right? Q, like you see it with Snowfro too, when he was just basically a community mod for the punks way back when, right? Like all these people that have been in the space for a long time, they all seem to have started in one form or another in community management, right? Or like just speaking to the users, let's just say.
It's fair.
There's something there, I think.
Yeah, it's a really good point. All right, we're going to jump into just the bigger news on the day. This is a tweet from Easy Eats over there on the Nifty Portal Show. He's actually like one of my more favorite guys that actually hosts that. Like, obviously, people have their own thoughts, but Easy, the founder behind Bodogos as well, I think does a phenomenal job. If you are a little Pudgy or a Pudgy holder, I'm going through this today. I have not checked this out in full, but you can see there is a way to get exposure to one, if not the top ETH collection and farm one of the most hyped airdrops. He's talking about Pudgy Penguins launching their partnership with LayerZero Labs, which admittedly, I think Biggie, you might have more information on LayerZero, but basically he's saying bridge little Pudgies within LayerZero. Again, I'm very high level at this point. I wish I could have done this earlier this morning, but I just heard them talking about this on the morning show. And so I'm doing this today with all of my little Pudgies. Apparently, they can be sent to Arbitrum, Binance, and Polygon. So they're doing basically the Utes round, where they're just like the most traveled collection here on the NFT side, man. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's interesting that they went for LayerZero. I'm a fan. It's also a big play on the modular blockchain narrative that we're talking about. So I don't know. It's definitely like up there with Celestia, you know, in terms of pedigree and reputation. So bullish. Like, I think it's really cool that they picked that. Wish I had a little Pudgy to do that. I imagine it'll also score you some points with the upcoming airdrop with LayerZero, which is cool.
That's what I think he's getting at. I don't know exactly anything about the Pudgy token, but yeah, I wanted to lay this out with LayerZero. I don't know much about that protocol, but I am going to try to get that and report back. Gif, I want to open the conversation up, though, to the Pudgy Penguins, right? And Lil Pudgies. Their floor continues to just be on fire, right? So Pudgy Penguins, I think, hit an all-time high. They're almost at 13 ETH now. Lil Pudgy's at 1.08. There's speculation around a Pudgy token and all this stuff, but what's up?
I just don't because I've thought about this in the past and not really talked about it. I haven't fully understood the purpose of this as a utility. And it seems like the only purpose right now for why you bridge your Pudgies, your little Pudgies, is to try and farm an airdrop. Does anybody understand like why you would want to be moving an NFT back and forth across chains?
This is more of a broad discussion, but I guess if I put my thinking cap on here for a moment, eventually we want to get to a point where you can just take an NFT anywhere, right? Like if there's a really cool thing happening in the Binance ecosystem, you want to be able to go over there.
In my head, the way that works is that you have like EVM compatibility where it can just read what's in your wallet and you don't have to pay a transaction fee every single time to actually move the asset. Like it should just be able to, it knows it's in your wallet and it can integrate and interoperate where it's at.
True, but if you're gonna like, let's say there's to Q's point, let's say there's a game that they're gonna be integrating with, right, where you need like faster transaction, throughput and lower cost transactions, then yeah, you I don't think you can just do that like with like referencing the original on Ethereum. You might need to bridge the actual asset over or a wrapped version of it there.
It all just feels very clunky and not the way to do it, in my opinion. And that's my question, is that like I remember reporting on the little Pudgy bridging thing when they first announced it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really understand it then. I still don't understand it. Like literally right now, it seems like they're just trying to make people use the function by incentivizing them with some kind of token airdrop. Potentially, you don't even know. It might be worth 1 cent. You might be paying more in gas fees to do this than you're actually going to earn. It feels like nonsense, and it feels like a lot of things in Web3 where they just try and get you to jump through hoops for some unknown, vague promise of some future value that may or may not ever amount to anything. And so I don't know. It just raises a lot of questions in my head about like, what does interoperability and multi-chain and omni-chain actually fucking mean? Like, how should it work? How is it actually valuable to me as an end user? Because the bigger conversation in my head is like, if I'm being real, and this is going to be a can of worms, so we don't have to go fully off the deep end here, but I've been thinking a lot, trying to be very honest with myself about my whole experience in Web3 with NFTs and products. It's been pretty fucking awful. Like overall, like look, we're early, dude. No, don't preach to me. I know all the things about like, we're fucking early. The technology is developing. We're watching it. We're the early adopters.
Yep.
We're the first ones over the fucking wall. Like, dude, I don't need to be preached to about that. But what I'm saying is that like, if I actually look at this whole experience, dude, like I've lost money, time, resources over and over again to participate in these things. And most of them, the vast majority of them, have not been worth the time, effort, resources that I put into it. And so
I guess I don't know the examples you're talking about.
I'm not, okay, let me give you just one example out of probably hundreds, if not thousands over the last 3 years. One example is SonSound. I love SonSound. I love what they're doing. I bought a whole bunch of those first initial PFPs, and then I've done nothing with them because it was crazy expensive. I lost a bunch of money buying all those PFPs at their local top. And then it was like crazy expensive to soul bind it. And you had to take a bunch of additional steps to try and get the headphones. So it's like, I was an early adopter there at the beginning, put way too much money into it. And I don't have anything to show for it other than I lost a bunch of money. And I'm not saying this to shit on SonSound. I actually love what they're doing. They actually have a product. They actually have a cool product, which most don't even have. The point is that, like, I'm just trying to be very, very honest with myself and analyze, like, okay, where are we? What's actually working? What makes sense? So I
agree with you.
All the things.
I think you're right, Gif, in the sense that like there are projects that, you know, collectors go into and unfairly, or, you know, I don't know. Like I agree with you. I do not like that approach where you, as the collector, as the person that's supporting the project, all of a sudden have to keep in the loop of every little damn.
You have to pay at every step.
And every step of the way you have to go through a transaction, right? Like that's one thing. This particularity, though, I think with the interchain travel or whatever you want to call it, is different, right? Like I think that's a narrative that's been, you know, I think pretty obvious to people that are not, you know, single chain maxis, that is necessary, right, to be able to interact with it. And it was like the thesis for, say, for Cosmos's IBC protocol, right? Like to be able to transact and to interact with all these different chains. Having said that, like we were also very aware that doing that exposes you to a lot of like smart contract risk, right? And like you said, sometimes going through these motions are not worth the risk or the transaction cost that they don't highlight, right? Like they don't emphasize that part. They just kind of tell you, you want to do that because there's going to be a game down there, and maybe you'll get airdrop some LayerZero tokens, right? And I think that's where you really fall into this whole, like, what's the best approach, right? Like when you look at Near, they're trying to abstract all chains. You know, it's like chain abstraction so that you don't have to bridge anything. You can just interact with the Near protocol and with all of these chains, where some others require you to bridge you know, the asset via a wrapper, say, or maybe even through an inscription and teleburning, which we're seeing now, right? Like this is all very new tech that you're playing with. So when you do decide to embrace or tinker with it, I think you're right in highlighting that you should do so with that mindset, right? Like, and not like with an expectation of like gains, right? Or if they're promising you some like amazing game over there, like, I don't know, like just take it with a grain of salt and know that it's going to cost you a certain amount of money. And that if that's like an ultimatum from that project, maybe it's better for you to just sell it, buy it in the other chain. I bet you sometimes you save some transaction fees that way, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just something that I've been trying to be more honest with myself about how I've been spending a lot of my time, energy, and resources, and like where is it actually been valuable and paid off. That's it. I understand that this is all a crazy experiment and it's high risk, high reward. But it does strike me that so many of the things right now, you as the end user still are required to like do so much work, pay attention to everything, consistently pay more and more to like follow every single step of the way. And a lot of times it's just for like promises of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially investing in startups, right? So if you choose the wrong startup, you like I'll give you an example. Like one that really rings true to me right now is 10KTF. People thought that they were gonna get, and maybe they did make the back. The early people probably did make a back, but right now that is one of the most wrecked collections from the coming from like a major blue chip almost to basically no activity. Like the whole project's almost dead. Like, well, and of course, those people are going to feel, not good.
the more frustrating part about it is that even if you choose one that's doing cool stuff, if you get in at the wrong time or you miss a step or whatever, you end up losing out on the value that you thought you were investing in. And so actually you bring up another example. So Sound was one where I invested a lot early on thinking that would be super valuable. For whatever reason, whether it was purely my fault or because I couldn't keep investing more or because I bought in at the wrong time, whatever it is, that ended up being a very bad investment for me so far. The other example is duplicators. So like Doodles, that was another example of one that it's like, okay, I actually feel good about this brand, etc. But I bought the duplicators with I guess a half understanding of how they were supposed to work. And then after I bought them, I couldn't even use them to do the things that I thought I was supposed to be able to do with them. And I spent thousands of dollars.
When did you buy that?
Dude, I bought 2 duplicators at like 1 ETH. So I spent
when?
During the launch of Doodles 2, when you're supposed to be able to do all the shit that the duplicators were gonna do.
A lot of this reminds me also of like the timing of it, right? Like if you're buying stuff in a bear market and a lot of this is financially based, then it is
I bought them at the top when you're supposed to be able to use them, but then I couldn't even use them the way that I thought I was supposed to be able to use them. So either way, I spent probably $5,000 buying duplicators, and all they did was go to almost zero, and I couldn't even get any utility out of them. So it's just like, these are just some examples of many. I don't even remember how we got on. Oh yeah, because we were talking about the multi-chain thing of just like getting people to keep taking all these steps and paying gas and taking tasks for a bunch of like promises that may or may not mean any. I'm just trying to understand, like, is there actually any value to this utility, or are they just trying to make people use it? I think promises.
I think you're bringing up a great point. I don't think it's talked about much. I think we just like want to be in the day to day and see, where we can potentially get exposure and all this stuff. But like Doodles 2 launched in Jan 23 of 2023. That, like, to me, that literally is the bottom of the last bear market. Like it maybe 6 months later is probably the bottom. So you're close, if not at the bottom there, like, of the bear market. And it's like that's not talked about. Like, I don't think outside of Pudgy Penguins, who did well, right? Like any of these older projects, who did well in this?
Azuki did, and then they took the bag.
Azuki
and they wrecked everything further.
Captains wouldn't be even in that category because they're not, I believe, an older project. Like everything that any of those older projects launched got wrecked.
What do you mean?
I mean,
Mark, like meme land captains?
Yeah, captains.
I mean, no, people made bank with meme. Like the people that did steak potatoes and do all
they
went
weren't
through all this hoop jumping, right? And stayed close to the project and did everything they were told to do. They did fantastic. But I agree, there are, I think, things that projects could do better in, like, either, you know, communicating to their holders, like, of any future actions or expenses or risks that they might be required to take. And having said that, like, when it comes to, like, other stuff, right, like what I would call, because sometimes they call them airdrops, but it's really claimables, like you have to claim them, and then sometimes there's like a deadline on that. That, in my opinion, with L2s now, should not exist. Like, people should not have to, you should be able to airdrop that same value, that same token, that same functionality that you're trying to propose to your holders without requiring them to stay on the day-to-day of your things. I completely sympathize with GIF on that regard.
That's an interesting point, is that maybe L2s and some of these other L1s can solve a lot of the issues. And maybe, honestly, that's the reason why they're eating away at Ethereum's market share. And because a lot of these problems might be Ethereum problems, honestly.
Biggie,
I don't know.
Does anything that Gifdead is saying ring true with Moonbirds? Like, you gotta be, it's the same thing.
Yeah, of course. I know plenty of friends, and like, you see, the thing with Proof and Moonbirds is that, like, a lot of the people, especially the original Proof investors, right? Like, again, I've said it many times, like, the quality and the diversity of people that went into that collective initially was very hard. I think you won't be able to replicate it ever again, right? Because it comes with years of people having followed Cairo, right? So the original minters and the people that went there were very particular type of people, and they are not degens. They are not people that are on Discord all the time. These are people that are building companies that are like, they saw this and said, okay, this is a 10-year investment for me, right? And when they went in there and they also looked at Moonbirds, they doubled down. Like, proofers are some of the biggest holders, whales of Moonbirds. But again, 10-year horizon. But one of the main issues has been when they come back and they're like, wait a second, I was supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to be nesting, and I missed out on talents, and I missed out on this because I didn't do that. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I thought, like, I had just bought into this thing and all I could do is sit back and sit pretty. And it turns out that I had to do all these other things. And I agree. Like, that's something that needs to be remedied, not just with Super Moonbirds, but with a lot of other projects where
I knew this was a can of worms, and I hijacked the show with this topic because it's a big topic. So I will push us to get back onto track. So Q, if you want to get back to the news, we can do that. But it's just something I've been thinking a lot about, and this Pudgy Penguins thing just makes me think more about, like, the way that a lot of this shit operates. And I don't know.
It's a great point and important. We don't have to dive into it further, but, like, it is something that I think needs to be highlighted more and addressed at this current state of the tech market with L2s and everything. A lot of this stuff should not exist. Like, it should be remedied. And I think it really comes down to value, right? Like because if you say for example, again, with something like Proof and like your passes, right? Like, you're supposed to choose your grail and do all this other stuff, right? Like, well, I think the issue there is, like, you want that grail to be on Ethereum, not on, you know, Arbitrum. Like,
sometimes it makes sense because the value is there.
Like, it doesn't have as much value if it's on Ethereum versus Arbitrum. And what I like about Jordan Lyle's platform is that what he's saying is, like, no, you know, like, the art is the art, and, you know, Arbitrum is, like, substantially secure so that the value can be held there. We'll see if that argument is embraced down the line. I think it will be.
It's a tough conversation. I'm glad we're having it, though, and I'm glad that you brought this up, Gif. It's because it gets your mind kind of working and to almost like zoom out, readjust thesis, look at what your current thesis is. But to me, we're building all of this stuff on a financial stack. First of all, it literally comes from Bitcoin. So when I look at the space, it's hard to remove the financial aspect. And if we get caught up in the wrong narrative, which I've got caught up in the wrong narrative, even myself I'm a huge Bored Ape lover. I have from the beginning. I love what they represented. But if you took bets on them for the last year and a half, you are down tremendously down. Like, ApeCoin wrecked. Bored Apes wrecked. Mutant, everything's wrecked. And they're probably one of the most notable in the entire space. So it's just it's a timing thing in the same way that financial cycles move. Like to me, that's it's tough to remove the financial aspect from it for me. Because it's not about Bored Ape. It's about the way everything is fucking crashing, the way money moves, and everybody wants to be safe in ETH or Bitcoin and stable.
One other relevant quick headline is the $9 million figure that Poly has to pay them coming out of the court decisions. And I have a hot take on that. I saw Marty and some other people saying like, oh, I disagree that like they should have to pay that much money. It's bullshit. I think they absolutely should, because when like the alternative is that we've decided that free speech now means you can go publicly lie and like ruin people's businesses, and that libel is like, and that there's no accountability for the things that you say publicly. Like, I'm sorry, this idea that free speech means no repercussions is fucking nonsense. And we went hard in that direction over the last 5 to 10 years of people just thinking like, I can say whatever the fuck I want online. I can destroy people's reputations and their lives, and nobody can do shit because free speech. And like, I'm sorry, that's not what free speech is. Free speech means like everybody gets to say what they want, but you're still held accountable for the shit that you say. There is still repercussions for that. And the damage that they did to the business of the Bored Apes and Yuga Labs, I think was absolutely millions and millions of dollars. If you looked at how much money was potentially like taken out of that ecosystem, people selling off assets, people fudding the shit out of their brand today. That they were, it's still to this day, they did serious damage.
All right.
I'm sorry. I just want to say I completely disagree with the idea that they shouldn't be paying the millions and millions of dollars worth of damage that they did to their brand and their business.
I'm interested that this settlement doesn't include him continuously shitting on Bored Apes. Like, isn't there? Shouldn't the settlement be like, you can't continue to defame Bored Apes like this, and yet he's still tweeting about it all the time. Anyways, let's move on to the next piece. It is a little bit of Pudgy Penguins related. It's going to be more Nifty Island stuff, but it's going to have a really cool trailer, which we all love. Mark Powell is saying Duplicators was an example of tech innovation of what NFTs could do in the future. The time was not ripe. No mainstream market to back it up. The future may see the same kind of tech with a use case. I agree wholeheartedly with that. I thought that they were a little bit innovative at the time, that with the avatars and all this stuff, except that the market doesn't want that. It clearly showed that the market didn't want any of the, let me change my avatar, let me change its clothes. It's just not where we want to be. And they also tied themselves to Flow, which never took off on the NFT side. They were going to use Instagram as this real big platform for them, and that never took off. Like, they took all the wrong bets on that one.
Doodles 2 might be one of the biggest flops.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Doodles tomorrow. I like that Doodles conversation. Let's have it tomorrow. So come back here tomorrow, and we will have this discussion. I want to lean into the Pudgy Penguins here, and quickly, I would like an answer here from both of you. Does Pudgy Penguins flip Bored Ape?
What are they right now? 12 ETH to what?
12. It's Pudgy Penguins is 13. Bored Ape is 24. Doesn't have to be right. I mean, just
I'm leaning towards no, or maybe if anything they like come close and maybe they like flip it briefly, but they're kind of like, it becomes this sort of pair, you know, like maybe they start to hang around the same level at some point. But dude, they've got to almost double their price right now to get to where Bored Apes still are holding, and Bored Apes are at like a low for them, really. So I find it hard to believe that they're just gonna all of a sudden flip. However, anything's possible, and Pudgy's and Luca have shown that they're incredibly capable operators. And so if any project does have the chance, they have the best chance. I'll say that.
Okay, I'll keep it short. No. I think I have a thesis, and I think that communities that start pulling away from the pack, from the misery of the pack, get kneecapped. And I think it's very possible that some stumbling block might present itself with the Pudgies, and at the same time, Yuga, I think, might surprise some people. anyways, I'm just saying no, and it's a guess. I'm not fudding anything, right?
Gotcha. More expectations, right?
Yes.
As you continue up that ramp, there's more expectations, more responsibility put on you. I see what you're talking about. That honeymoon phase only lasts so long, as we've seen. All right. Cam Taylor says yes, they do. Prodigy saying no. Y'all are sus like the Pats without Brady or Belichick. what is going on in chat? Just yes or no, please. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, X, or Twitch, we appreciate you so much. Our vibe, our tribe. If you're on X, or a reply, a repost, a like, we'd appreciate that very much. If you're over here on YouTube, just a simple like will do. We appreciate you guys a bunch. All right, after that discussion, I do want to bring in Nifty Island here in this discussion real quick. Jonah is tweeting about this, saying, I think you will be very surprised by the quality of the first release. We just played that play test. This is coming out on Wednesday. Nifty Island is essentially going to be creating instances where different NFT IP and collections and communities can come in and create their own small environment. Free. It's basically a sandbox, right? And you'll be able to interact. We've already seen this from, I believe, Miladies has put out some stuff. Pudgy Penguins has as well. Let's see what they come out with here.
Dude, can we go back and look at that Jonah post one more time? Oh, okay, sorry. We'll play this first.
Yeah, real quick. So just giving you a look at what you're potentially going to see. So you see there's a shootout, probably some type of, my guess would be some type of
blancos, man. You said it. It's blancos.
It really is. It really is. I think there's going to be some maybe survival aspect, team deathmatch. You're going to be able to capture the flag, but really the idea is to show off the IP in an interesting way, which is the original use case there over at Sandbox. It was something that I've been talking about for a long time with Other Side. It wasn't about Bored Apes. It was about getting other communities in, and this is what you see with Nifty Island. And Biggie, I do agree with you. This looks exactly like Blancos when it comes to these instances.
It's Blancos 2.0. And so this is the first time. I was wondering when we were going to get to see gameplay. So I guess they have actually shared some of it. And that's why, right? Because it's like you get a real sense for what the game actually is. Blancos 2.0.
All right, here's the Jonah tweet. And Biggie, did you have anything to add as we look at that trailer as well?
Dude, I love that Igloo Island. That's pretty dope. But yeah, no, I want to check it out. I want to play it.
Well, I think it's going to be important for people to understand that I haven't looked at the NFTs. I think it's a little bit late, in my opinion, to like be loading up on these, like especially the more rare palms, I believe, is the multiplier. So they have like multipliers within their ecosystem, but it might have been better if you got it 6 months ago. But
so to me, the success of this beyond like an initial token airdrop is going to come down to how sticky the gameplay is. Because like it's very novel and interesting to get in there and see your PFP and be able to play with it. Cool. But the novelty of that wears off incredibly quickly, right? So, and then the token airdrop, a lot of people are only going to be participating just to get the airdrop. And beyond that, they're not going to stick around. So is the game actually fun? Is there legitimate hooks in this thing that keeps you coming back? Because you're like, yo, I'm just having so much fucking fun playing this Blancos game. And to be honest, the Blancos and a bunch of other of those early games that were like this, they just were not fun at all. They had nothing sticky about them. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in these first couple of days. It's like, what's the replayability of this beyond just like, hey, look, it's my fucking character. And
it's a great point. It's a great point. And that's where Other Side is going to differentiate itself. It's way more, there's way more depth to what they're trying to create, albeit it's taking them longer to do so. But yeah, it's going to go through that sandbox piece, GIF, where it's like, it's fun to go in there for a second, but how can you create potentially sticky users is I think a fantastic point. Biggie, any last thoughts here?
No, I agree with what you guys said, you know.
All right. Love it. All right, we're going to move on to the next piece here. Any thoughts on these Nakamigos cards? This was a post. So the Nakamigos hadn't posted for 2 months. This is their first post.
Since the cloaks, since they diluted the shit out of their ecosystem with 20,000 more PFPs.
Yeah, this was exactly. And then we got January 17th, we're getting crypto trading cards. I'm not in the Nakamigos. I will forever fade this collection. I don't really care for the way that they go about their business, but it is what it is. Also, another collection, I think Huda was bringing up Goblin Town, but more so, Nakamigos reminds me of Crypto Dick Butts in the way that they're trying to be not this PFP that's associated with a business. It's more like culture and art and just fuck off. Like it's just about the culture. Yeah, vibes,
bro.
I don't like the way crypto. Well, what happened to Crypto Dick Butts? I thought that they were going to do this DAO handoff thing. I haven't heard anything about their selection or what's going on. So I just don't like these type of plays. It's just not me.
Dude, you just reminded me of a post from Dimitri Cherniak.
It all comes down to leadership, right? Like I know like somebody else also brought in Goblin Town, and I really like what Sarah Script had to say there, right? But Goblin Town has a very clear leadership, right? Like that sets the tone for the culture. And I think with Nakamigos, you still haven't, and same with Crypto Dick Bucks, you still haven't been able to grasp that 100%. I don't know if that's by design, definitely with Crypto Dick Butts, but I think, I don't know, it's indicative, right, of that. Like I think as humans, we always seek leadership, you know, like as romantic as the DAO idea is, great DAOs have great leadership. You just need that, period.
All right, I appreciate that. Gif, you had a pretty funny post about this, so I'm not going to actually play it for everybody out there because I don't want to give everyone epilepsy. Let's go very briefly into this Refik Anadol piece because we do have a bunch of other topics I want to get to before we stop. I'm not going to play it.
It's in retrospect, it actually is kind of painful to watch. Like it's very cool, but whatever. Yeah, he decided to go with this like flashy shit where it's just like constantly flashing at you. And yeah, that was one of the funny sort of responses to this video is, you know, there's no seizure warning. But look, it is actually a very cool thing. Refik Anadol, who of course most people are familiar with now after he was, you know, one of, if not the artist of the year in 2023. You know, he's been doing amazing things. He has now taken a lot, basically his data set that he's been collecting for a long time from nature, you know, Winds of Yawanawa being one of the premier examples of how he's applied the data set. He's now created a platform and open sourced it. And it's called DATALAND, and he's calling it the first large nature model, which is cool. And so now he's basically opening up this data set that he's ethically sourced to a bunch of different artists and creators to use it. And the first application of this platform, I mean, obviously you could argue Winds of Yawanawa and other projects he's done are the first applications, but of the DATALAND platform, he just launched the first NFT with the WEF, World Economic Forum, which is interesting to say the least. A lot of things you could talk about there. You know, we got into this whole conversation around like, how do you actually create meaningful change, and like, what does it look like to dance with the devil? And there's a lot to unpack. I don't know enough about the World Economic Forum and like what goods or bads they've produced, but I tend to feel like NFTs outside of the bubble, like of crypto Twitter and NFT Twitter, have just an incredibly toxic and negative optics and presence, and like like the way that people think about it is just very negative. And we need really, really positive, big stories out there to try and start to shift that narrative and upturn it. And this could be an example of that, right? It's like trying to create change from the inside. You're often more successful than just trying to create change from the outside. That's kind of how I see this type of shit. Refik seems to me like his intentions are very good, and I do think intention matters to an extent. Yeah.
Not to mention that he's already like a pretty well-respected collector outside of the NFT world, right? But I agree with what you said, Gif. I think it's really what he's doing, right? Like he's going to a very different forum where people may not be so well versed in what NFT and AI can accomplish or do, and he's bringing it into light. I think it's great. It's a great move. I understand people's, I don't know, double take, right? When you say, "Oh, but like to paint everybody there like a bunch of Epsteins is disingenuous. I think there's
Lizard
people out
people.
there that are very high level art collectors that really understand the space, and to have somebody like Refik go in there and display his art and share it with the world, it can do nothing wrong. In my opinion, I think it can only help us. We need more people because, you know, while I do agree that the main thrust of everything is grassroots, people like him that have access to things like the World Economic Forum, having people go over there and do the trek and present their work is also as important, if you know, when it comes to like onboarding people.
Yeah, and let me just add one other piece of context to it, and that's that what Refik did in 2023, getting the first full like permanent installation, like NFT generative AI installation into the MoMA, which is like one of the biggest contemporary art museums in the world. And it's like prominently displayed, like everybody's going there to see this thing, putting his work on the Sphere, you know, literally having NFTs and generative AI art on one of the biggest displays in the world that everybody's watching. He just in the last year or two has basically put himself up there with like people, you know, and now people like Jack Butcher. Like Refik is in my mind positioning himself as one of the godfathers of digital art in a way, like of this whole fucking movement, for what he's doing to actually bring in more people or expand the exposure of what this space can do to the masses and get a lot more people interested in digital art as a viable asset class or just a really cool thing to participate in. Like he's doing incredible work. And so I see all of this stuff, like this WEF thing, as part of a trajectory and an oeuvre that he's building that I think is very powerful for digital art and NFTs and Web3.
All right, very well said. We are gonna Biggie. Last thought there.
No, I was gonna say like the DATALAND thing has got me really excited. Right, it's almost like taking a page from Snowflow and doing art blocks version of AI crypto work, which is really cool. I want to see what comes out of it. I hope many people embrace it and do really cool things with it.
All right, Prodigy saying Club Penguin goes viral with the Nifty Island release here. Digit saying time to get banned on that platform as well. Marty McFly saying easy is cool, but Nick is the single most cringe person in Web3, and PO is a close second. Mark Alor Powell, I think Miladies are the queen of vibes NFT. Party nihilist with exclusive fashion and lifestyle offering. It really reflects our times. I guess I can't disagree with that. Carrie Ross saying, and the damage Blur and No Royalties did to the BAYC, but all collections. I am interested to see where this, as we ramp back into potentially another cycle for NFTs, what Blur's role in all this will be. Will Pac-Man come out with something that's not maybe a negative, quote unquote, for the NFT space? Although the liquidity provided via that platform, I mean, if you go and look over there at the volume, there's a majority is shouldered by Blur. So that there is an importance to be added there. Liquidity is important in this industry. Marty McFly saying blame Gary V. Damn. All right, we're going to move on into the next topics. Guys, we're kind of on time here. We're kind of tracking.
I'm really surprised.
I did my best to derail us. I don't know how that's possible.
We are going to jump into the alt chain discussion. Obviously, it's still the narrative. I don't want to continue preaching to the choir, but NFTs look pretty good right now. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of flow back into the ETH marketplace. There's obviously NFTs that are popping up and have been mainstays on other chains. But this is just ETH. Looks like Moonbears is up 117% on the 7-day. Nouns taking a little bit of a bounce here, although the top bid is way off from the actual floor price here. It looks like Nouns is at 13.5. Nakamigos Cloaks is up 20%. Pudgy Penguins we just talked about. Little Pudgies. Winsy Awanawa coming off a big pump from the I guess being associated obviously with DATALAND in that latest release. Big losers, Velocity series has been super volatile, so it's up 73% on the week, but it's down 20 on the day. What else is going on here? I don't see much. Checks, yeah, not many losers here on the ETH NFT side. It does feel like money's flowing back in there, but let's talk on other stuff besides that.
Well, really quickly, just to add to it. So from Huda's sort of 5-minute overview of like Crypto Slam, the NFT market is up just like a little bit. And there's a lot of grails. You know, he's been pointing to people starting to sweep grails as an early indicator of increased interest. And there has been some big grail pickups, including like a Hoodie Punk and a few others. In the last couple of days.
I think that's a broader discussion, Gif, that we're seeing in a micro form on SEI, right? Because on SEI, which I'll bring up here in a second, like we're seeing a bunch of collections, but not really any products or anything substantial. And you see the same thing with Solana, where a lot of this, and you've been very vocal about this, like there's not much substance to what's being created there. There's a lot of fucking hype. The floor prices were increasing, but that doesn't mean that there's anything worth any type of mainstay liquidity or just mainstay sentiment on Solana, like as at a whole. But that's what you definitely have on ETH. And ETH has been shitted on for the past 6 months. I mean, you could, goddamn, it's been a whole calendar year almost that ETH has gone like this. But that's where the culture is. That's where the community is. That's where the product is. Will people understand it? And will money move back there? I don't know. It's just an interesting discussion as we cover these altcoins. Any thoughts?
I think it'll definitely move back there. I think we can go back into some of the other shows that we've done in the past when we've had like Jared Paz over here. And I know his co-host or friend Aston also feels the same way. Like a lot of these people understand that like the way these narratives works, right, is like BTC, ETH, alts, NFTs. And when you do get to that NFT question, you will be looking for blue chip art that has already survived certain cycles, that has a collector base that has been through many cycles and is holding strong, where culture is being defined. And I think like one of those is art blocks, and most of it is going to be on ETH. I'm not saying all of it. Like I do think you're going to see some ordinals remain there and like really plant their flag. And you could very well see something on Solana and some of these other chains that have already been through a couple of cycles that do have their culture, that will have these pieces that will be able to, you know, last through the next cycle. But for the time being, yeah.
There's a couple big ordinals drops happening in the next day or two. Again, we're trying to cover everything. We don't do the best job of covering like all the specific drops over there. I know there's like Pizza Ninjas or something, and then there's Butoshi is like a new creator that's doing a big drop. So throwing that out there. But I agree with Biggie. Biggie's usually got great takes. He's super smart. So here's the thing. Right now, there's still very limited liquidity and not that many people coming in. So everybody's chasing the narratives and everything's very, very splintered. You know, there's a million different things popping up where people are trying to chase airdrops and DeFi and NFTs on new chains and etc. So there's not a whole lot new liquidity yet. And it's like everybody's, it's sort of like an exodus. We've seen this exodus from Ethereum lately. But all roads to me lead back to ETH when it comes to NFTs, culture, and art still, like Biggie said. And what happens when an Ethereum ETF happens, which most people feel like is definitely going to happen. Larry Fink predicted the Bitcoin ETF. Instead, I'm still waiting for my Biafam NFT.
I didn't get the collection link.
I know, I got you. That's on me. I'm just giving you a hard time. But he's now beating the drum on ETH ETFs. People think that all the work that went into getting the BTC ETFs approved is probably going to streamline or make that a smoother experience, and it should happen. So Bitcoin is going to get a lot more people, then Ethereum is going to get a lot more people, and eventually when people do start getting back into NFTs, the majority of new people are going to go to Ethereum first for all the reasons that Biggie said. It has the provenance, it has the quality, it has the ecosystem, it has the history, it has the culture. Yes, some people will go to Solana for certain projects. And then I think Ordinals and maybe a couple others like SEI or Avalanche will get some of that. But at the end of the day, the majority of new people coming in that are going to buy NFTs, I think are still going to be fucking around with Ethereum. Maybe Solana does get more of that. But
that to me is more bullish on EVM than it is on Ethereum. Although people make the obvious like jump to say, oh, all of EVM growing is great for Ethereum. Okay, that's fine. But I'm talking about like literally the ecosystem that exists on Ethereum today. Dude, the usage of Ethereum still fucking sucks, and it's getting worse. Like the gap is with things like SEI, where you're able to like almost instantaneously. You look at the finalization with a lot of these when you're just interacting with it, it's almost instantaneous. And you go over here and you're paying less than a cent, and then you go over to Ethereum, and I just can't see it. I know we were talking on a show 2 months ago, and I was like, oh, users will come back and use Ethereum. The more I use these other chains, the more I'm like, why? Like, why? And think about people not in the US or not in, a really affluent countries. They can't. Like, they literally are priced out of using Ethereum.
Yeah. But yes, I think you're right that a lot of people will choose to use these other chains. And also, the people that collect real fine art that have a ton of money, those gas fees don't mean shit.
That's fair, but that's not how you make a broad scale, like scalable community.
But it is because like ordinals and Ethereum are going to be where most whales play their games, and most people want to follow where the whales are going because they have the liquidity. So I'm not saying that you're not right. I'm saying, and most of the whales will still be wanting to buy and collect art on ordinals and Ethereum.
Yeah.
I don't think like I love prohibition.art, and I think
be aspirational, right?
Yeah, I think we will see some really legit collections on Arbitrum or SEI or Solana. But if I'm a top artist and a top art collector, where am I going to be spending the majority of my money collecting art? It's probably not going to be Solana. I'm just saying, maybe there will be something that pops up on Solana that'll change all of that. Maybe all of a sudden, fucking the biggest artist in the world decides my art's going on Solana, and then all the whales want to collect art over there. But that still doesn't get rid of art blocks, the provenance on Ethereum, what Bitcoin and ordinals means to security and longevity, or
it depends on what your goal is as a project, though. If that's your goal to kind of find those very small amount of community members that have a shit ton of money, if that's your goal as a project, then hell yeah. I think if you're creating a 10,000 piece PFP collection, it gets a little bit hairier with where is your addressable market? What do you want these users to do? Do you want them to be interacting, because they're not going to be interacting on chain on Ethereum, depending on what you're asking them to do, because it costs fucking $5, $10 each transaction.
All I'll say is that the majority of artists right now are all trying to plant seeds on ordinals and some on Solana. Like after that, it's Solana. But all the biggest fine art Ethereum creators that I've seen, all of them are trying to get ordinals done, and then some of them are also trying to launch art on Solana.
Okay. I think you're onto something there too. I think it is a yes and yeah.
I think it's fair to say that very much like back in the day, remember, where people wait, you can own a fraction of a Bitcoin, but in people's minds, you didn't really own a Bitcoin until you owned a whole Bitcoin now, and now being a whole Bitcoiner is a thing, right? Same thing with art. I think when it comes to NFTs and projects, people are going to aspire to eventually own a rare sat, or to be able to get a squiggle or something like that. But I do think, to your point, Q, is that the opportunity to onboard these new people, to incentivize them to eventually get there, is going to be through L2s, right? And again, how you do that, whether it's through DeFi, whether it's through, utility, PFP projects, or music, or social fi, and all these other different sectors that are popping up, that's different, right? But in the end, I think these more slower, clunkier chains that do have that provenance, there's going to be aspirational, right? Just for we've said, the really heavy, important, critical stuff, transactions, everything else. Hence the whole bridging your assets into other, L2, right?
Well, let's jump into this all chain talk a little bit because we're right here at the end of the episode. We probably have 5 minutes left. I want to stick to a really hard time frame on that if we can. I got into Berachain here over the weekend. Biggie Poppins had brought this to us. This is going to be, I believe, in the Cosmos ecosystem as well, backed by Polychain Capital. We mentioned that earlier in the episode. They actually had a situation where, like, Biggie, when I was using this, first of all, it's a test net. It's EVM compatible. So basically what you would do, and I could maybe find the thread where you can add it to your MetaMask, right? Once you add it to the MetaMask, you can interact with a testnet faucet that drips you like, just think about them as monopoly money, basically. The actual interaction with the protocol, it stunk because there were so many people interacting with this protocol that they were like, hey, we got to shut this down for a second. Or I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said, we sincerely appreciate all the feedback and suggestions. We saw more activity than we could have possibly expected. 1 million transactions, yada, yada, yada. They're looking to update the infrastructure here is essentially the post. But Biggie, I had a good time on this chain. It was fun to interact with the test net, get the faucet, kind of use play money to interact with these different dApps. So I'm officially on Berachain. Again, some of this has to do as well with chasing an airdrop. I'm not going to overcoat or sugarcoat that. But yeah, thoughts on Berachain, and then we can hit some of these others.
Man, I there's something there, right? Like sometimes, with all these different protocols popping up, you want to try them all, right? And I think you need to start developing an eye to see the ones at least that might be worth your while, but also that you think, at least that's my approach, is that, like, I try to find projects that feel like they're aligned with, whether it's the VC people there that are backing that, right? Like, that they actually have true believers, whether they're aligned with, like, the ethos of the space. Are they decentralized enough? Do they have a novel component that we haven't seen before? In their case, like proof of liquidity and the use of soulbound tokens to prove that you've provided that liquidity. It's very unique. And like I've mentioned in Scroll in another instances, the reasons why I'm also think like those are like worthy of your time, right? But Berachain is, it's right up there with Scroll to me, where I think it can definitely do well.
Okay.
At least for some time, right, before this whole thing blow off.
Yeah, taking a calculated bet there. I do have Stake Cedo. I believe that's how you say it. This was the thread I was mentioning. He goes through how the steps in process one that you want to take to potentially farm the airdrop.
Cedo.
Is it Stake Cedo? Yes. Hopefully that is it. But you can see the RPC. This is basically what you would add to your MetaMask to start to interact with the chain, all that stuff. So a great thread there. I'm gonna move on real quick to the Sayors, or I don't know if we want to call them Sayans. That can get kind of confusing. But if you are using Say and you have been following the network, Silo just launched. This is another liquid staking.
I thought we were sailors.
Well, here's the thing. Like, sailors, does that mean you are the person holding the Sailor token? Or
there's already a sailor.
There's Sayers, there's Sayans.
Sailor token.
Of course, there's a sailor.
What'd you say?
Who's the one that's launching the Sailor token?
Kraken. I'm sorry. What? I might be. Kryptonite.
Oh, okay.
Kryptonite. So you can see here, Kryptonite is one I've mentioned many times. It was the first that offered liquid staking. So you could come in and you could actually liquid stake your Say for Stake Say. This is basically another platform here that I'm going to look to farm the airdrop. They are staking. They allow you to stake Say for I Say here. So just going to drop this for y'all if you are Sayers or Sailors or
memeable, that thing.
Sailors.
I say more, say less.
So here's another quick update here for you guys. We've been tracking the NFT marketplace. Gifdead even bought his first NFTs, right? He talked about that. Here's volume for NFT sales. It's you can see this little dip and then a spike back up.
That spike was me. That was all me. That was entirely my bag going in.
Coming in.
Average 14-day, average 30-day volume in the NFT marketplace is consistently going up. So that's good to see. Number of buyers going up. This is the biggest and probably the best exchange that you'll see. WeBump has just fully stayed where it is. I mean, it's gone down, it's gone up, but the average has stayed the same around $1,200. Yeah, basically. When we first showed you guys this exchange, there was like 4 NFT collections. There are now
Jesus Lord
38, of which not many are legitimate. So I will say that it's not like the craziest, thing that's happened over that time. It's just about a lot of copy pasta. Most of the thesis remains the same for me. WeBump, Dob, The Colony, Saiyans. Like these 4 have to me stood out. I took a heavy bet on Saiyans early. I thought that the Saiyans were going to be popping off. They really have. That's not saying they won't when it comes back, but I thought that they would be the PFP of the chain. Dob has really stepped in as, in my opinion, on X at least, seeing the most PFPs.
Would they be like
in
the
SEI ecosystem
of Say?
I could say,
right?
Great call. Yeah, great call. It is that. It seems to be this like counterculture.
Don't move chains, Dobbs.
Yeah, dear Say community.
Great vibes on X. I think you and I both, when we posted that we got into it, got a ton of engagement. Everybody coming through to dob you up.
Carrie, I have to disagree. Blur brought in traders more than collectors. The traders were already here. They were just using OpenSea. So I don't think it was like, oh my God, Blur launched, let's all get into NFTs. It's like, no, they were there. Now, whether it led to these farming practices and all that stuff, that's a whole different thing. But those traders were here, and they were on
negative feedback loops were created through certain incentives. But
and it happened at the exact same time the bear market was happening, so it felt really bad.
They created a tool that didn't exist for traders. So they just became the traders platform by nature of developing a platform targeting traders.
The alternate timeline that I always use for this is, if Blur did not exist, that would be a really interesting thing to watch, because the idea is the liquidity would not be there, because traders essentially were your liquidity as everything faded away. So where would the floor prices have been if literally the liquidity just dried up instantly, whereas Blur kind of continued the liquidity train for at least a little bit longer? Unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where we would be. I don't really have much more here on Say. I mean, this is kind of where we're at. WeBump is still churning out these whitelist opportunities, but really it feels like it's oversaturated at this point. It's gone from, you get a whitelist for potentially something like a Dob, right? That ran up to, I think, like 300 Say, to getting a whitelist for Say MFers that is literally worth $3. So that's where we're kind of at right now. There's an oversaturation of BS. So the airdrops are getting worse and worse. We're getting like sub one Say projects, which is wild.
But it's like I'm watching Solana back in the day, right? What's his name? Had that platform. I don't know if you guys ever played around with it. The guy that invented Twitch, he came up with like a platform just for NFTs. It was like
Justin Kahn.
And every other day it was like a new NFT, and it was hyped, and you had to get these NFTs to get on the list, and they all sold out, and all of them are dead now. Pretty sure all of them are dead.
We're in an interesting spot with Say. They have the narrative. Well, I think I'm not putting all of my chips there, but we're spending a ton of time there. I think Biggie, you mentioned airdrops. I could briefly talk about, I just want to mention that the Jupe airdrop is super important here in the Solana ecosystem. It's happening on the 31st. So any thoughts here on?
Well, I haven't read up on what people are expecting. Have you, like, what the token, where comparables? I'm looking. I always like reading those threaders, right? That speculate and find the comparables and the multiples and try to build up a thesis on it. I honestly haven't kept up much with it, though I will be going into Jupe before the 31st and making a couple of little extra trades, because I know I already like came up on the radar for the initial airdrop, so maybe like just doing a couple of extra trades before that will give you a little more.
Hopefully. You know what? And I wish I had the answer for you. I didn't get the Jito airdrop, and I did not I'm not saying I faded it.
I didn't intentionally farm this, Q, but I'll tell you a funny story. I think the reason I qualified like for this Jupe airdrop is me bridging my shit out of Solana in the last crisis. I can almost swear like that's what actually qualified me here.
So a bridge qualified you?
Yeah,
That's
like
awesome.
through the wormhole, and like because some of it I think I bridged, and then some of it I didn't. I actually traded, with those dexes that allowed you to trade from one to the other.
Yeah.
And I think one of those it might have triggered a Jupe airdrop, which was really cool and surprising and nice to see.
There you go. Sometimes it's better to be
Lucky
than good, huh? All right, love it. I think
Any
that's it for the dashboard for me, man. Did you have any last kind of topics here as we round out the episode here? We're at an hour and 15, so a couple minutes and
No,
let's
man,
see what
I'm
happens.
excited for this week. I'm trying to see we can get Mark over tomorrow, talk unicorns and ordinals, and then I'd also want to get our friend Raven in, say maybe freaking Wednesday screws with me with our spaces in Command A, which I'm gonna try shuffling around. We'll see, but Raven's got a phenomenal, accessible, open mint over on Prohibition coming up on the 24th. You guys should definitely have it on your radar. I found it to be very inspiring. I'm full disclosure, I plan to bin a bunch of dots. I think it's really, really cool. And I say it not because I know Raven and I think he's very talented and I call him a friend, but yeah, I can't wait to present him to you and have him talk to you through the project. I think I haven't seen any other generative art project do what he's proposing to do. And I think it's really fun.
Can you drop a link in the private chat for me?
Yeah, man.
Love to pull that up as we round out. Oh my God, there's a tweet from Portal. Do you guys remember Portal Coin?
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that exists still. All right, we are going to be getting up out of here very shortly. Cam Taylor, Kerry Ross, Nick Swerve. Let's see who else. Nifty Castle, Mark, Prodigy, Digits,
Swerve is a
Man.
poet. I didn't know Swerve was a poet over here.
Is he?
Got a video too, huh? Nice.
Oh, get a
What's the 300? Cool.
I'll watch this.
Swerve is saying, says one of those oases in the desert that suddenly disappears when you're about to take a drink. That's poetry.
So it's a little bit harsh. We got to give these new chains a little bit of room to breathe here. I know we want to be super skeptical. That's fine, but it's a tad harsh. All right, this is the Raven post here. Hopefully we have this artist in this week. One of the inspirations for the Dots ecosystem is a $1 million homepage by Alex 2 from 2005, an artifact from early days of Web 2. I'm fascinated with giving power to a community to co-create art. Let's see what we got here.
The base unit of digital art is the pixel, and a pixel is essentially a dot. So I thought, what if we could recreate the pixel but give it my signature on it?
All right, yeah, already excited. Those were some tasty, crunchy jams there. Do you see that? I'm kind of feeling that.
Yeah.
All right, we guys, this has been a fantastic episode. We just got the week started. It is January 15th, so right in the middle of this month, we are cruising through this year. So excited to be sitting here with you. Biggie Poppins, any last thoughts? And then let's head out to Gifdead to take us out. We appreciate you guys all the way through X, YouTube, Twitch. Again, our Vibe, our tribe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be here tomorrow.
Our Vibe, our tribe, man. We'll see you tomorrow. Great way to start the week. I can't wait.
OVOT.
That's it.
I mean, if
Yes, we're still here. We're still here. We're still live.
I was counting on like Gift to do a speckle speech or something and be like,
Bring back the Dote Speckle.
Look,
Do you still have it?
I was gonna say if you wanted to pull up that tweet from this morning from the W3 account, what are we, and share that, get people to share that. That would be cool. But also, yes, just remember the one law of Web3: do not speckle.